Let's take a break, my wife said. But later I found out she was cheating with her coworker, using our money to fund their hotel meetups. So I froze our accounts, tracked everything, and served her divorce papers before she saw it coming. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Hey everyone! So this is going to be a long one. Happened about 18 months ago, but I'm finally ready to tell the whole story. Fair warning, this gets pretty intense, and I'm going to include all the gory details because you guys deserve the full picture. So I've, 35 male, been an electrician for about 12 years now. Run my own crew, make decent money. Nothing fancy, but we're comfortable. My wife Sarah, 32 female, works in marketing for some mid-sized tech company downtown. We've been married 5 years, together for 7 total. No kids yet. Been talking about it, but never felt rushed. You know how it is. Met her at a buddy's housewarming party back in 2016. I'm not usually the type to chat up random women at parties, but there was something about her. Smart as hell, could hold her own in conversations about anything from sports to politics. Pretty in that girl next door way. Not Instagram model hot, but the kind of woman you actually want to wake up next to every morning. Different worlds, though. She's got her college degree and works in an office with fancy coffee machines and ping pong tables. I show up to work in Carhartt pants and steel-toe boots, spend my days crawling through attics and running wire through walls. But somehow it worked. She never acted like she was better than me. Never made me feel stupid for not having some fancy degree. We moved in together after about a year, got engaged on our 2-year anniversary, and got married the following spring. Life was good, man. Really good. That's why what happened last Tuesday hit me like a freight train. I'm sitting at our kitchen table eating leftover pizza from the night before, scrolling through my phone while Sarah finishes up some work emails on her laptop. Nothing seemed off. We'd just gotten back from a long weekend camping up in the mountains, had a great time, lots of laughs, good sex, the whole deal. Then she closes her laptop, gets this weird look on her face, and says, "Mike, I think we need to take a short break." I literally stopped chewing. Break from what? From this, United States. I need some time to clear my head and figure some things out. Now I'm thinking maybe she's having some kind of delayed quarter-life crisis or whatever. Clear your head about what exactly? Did I do something wrong? No, it's not you, she says, which is like the most cliché breakup line in history. I just feel like I'm losing myself in this routine. I love you, but I need some space to figure out who I am outside of being married. This is coming from nowhere, right? We literally just spent 3 days in a tent together, having deep conversations about everything under the sun. If she was having some identity crisis, when the hell was she planning to mention it? For how long? I asked, trying to keep my voice level. Maybe 2 weeks? I can stay at Anna's place. Give us both time to think. Anna's her college roommate, lives across town in one of those new apartment complexes with the fancy gym and pool. They hang out maybe once a month, grab drinks, normal friend stuff. Seemed reasonable enough. And what exactly does this break look like? Are we still... I started to ask the obvious question. Exclusive, yes. She cut me off real quick. This isn't about other people, Mike. This is about me needing space to process things. The whole conversation felt rehearsed, like she'd been practicing these lines in her head. But I didn't want to be that paranoid husband who loses his shit every time his wife wants some independence. So I took a deep breath and said, "Okay, if that's what you need, then that's what we'll do." She looked relieved. Suspiciously relieved, if I'm being honest. Came over and hugged me, said she loved me, and this would make us stronger in the long run. Then she went upstairs and packed a bag. Just basics, enough for a few days. She was gone within an hour. I helped her load her stuff into our car. Well, my car technically, title's in my name, but we shared it. Hugged goodbye, told her to text me when she got to Anna's safely. Then I'm standing in my driveway, watching my wife drive away to find herself, feeling like something was seriously wrong, but not being able to put my finger on what exactly. That night, I'm sitting on my couch eating Chinese takeout, house feeling way too quiet. The whole thing kept bugging me. Not the break itself necessarily, but the way she presented it. Too smooth, too prepared. Like she'd been planning this conversation for a while. Around 10 p.m., I decide to text Anna, just to make sure Sarah got there okay and everything was cool. Simple message. Hey, just wanted to make sure Sarah made it to your place all right. Thanks for letting her crash there. Anna texts back about 20 minutes later. What? I haven't talked to Sarah in like a week. Is everything okay? Did something happen? And that's the moment I knew I was getting played. My wife of 5 years, who just asked for a break to find herself, had lied to me about where she was staying. On day one, I sat there staring at my phone, reading Anna's message over and over, feeling this cold knot forming in my stomach. If Sarah wasn't at Anna's place, where the hell was she? And why lie about it? That's when I started paying attention to things I used to ignore. And let me tell you guys, once you start looking for lies, you find them everywhere. Wednesday morning, I called in sick to work. Told my crew I had food poisoning, which wasn't totally a lie since my stomach was twisted in knots. Made some coffee and sat at the kitchen table trying to figure out my next move. That's when I noticed our shared laptop sitting on the counter. Nothing unusual about that. We use it for budgeting, checking email, streaming Netflix on the big TV, normal household stuff. Sarah's always logged into her accounts because she handles most of our online bills and banking. I wasn't planning to snoop, honest. But then I opened it up to check our bank account, wanted to see if there were any charges that might tell me where she actually was. And that's when I saw the Slack notification pop up in the corner from someone named Luis Rivera, her coworker at the marketing firm. Message preview said, "Last night was amazing. Can't believe we pulled that off right under his nose." My blood went ice cold. I just stared at that notification for like 30 seconds, not wanting to click on it because I knew once I did, there was no going back, but also knowing I had to. Clicked on it, and the full conversation loaded up. Months of messages. Months. Going back to January, while I'm working 12-hour days wiring up some office complex downtown, she's planning afternoon client meetings that were really hotel visits. I'm scrolling through this shit, and it just keeps getting worse. Some highlights from their greatest hits collection. Room 247 at the Marriott downtown. Same time tomorrow? Your husband working late again? Perfect timing. Can't wait to taste you again. Photos that I'm not going to describe, but let's just say they weren't discussing quarterly sales projections. Then this. When are you going to tell him? I'm tired of sneaking around. After I take this break, give me 2 weeks to figure out the cleanest exit. That last exchange was from Monday night. The night before, she asked for our break. This whole thing wasn't some spontaneous, soul-searching mission. It was a calculated exit strategy. She was using these 2 weeks to figure out how to leave me, while making it look like my fault for not being supportive of her journey, or whatever bullshit story she was going to spin. I screenshotted everything. Every message, every photo, every timestamp. My hands were shaking, but I made sure to get it all documented. Then I started cross-referencing our shared calendar and bank statements, looking for patterns. Remember that client dinner she had to attend last month? Hotel charge for $187 on the same night. Late meeting with the creative team? ATM withdrawal for $60 near Lewis's apartment complex. Yeah, I looked up his address. Girls' night with Anna? Another hotel charge. This time, $203. The pattern was clear once you knew what to look for. Every work event that kept her out late had corresponding charges that didn't make sense. Every girls' night that I couldn't join had financial evidence pointing somewhere else entirely. But here's what really pissed me off. She was using our joint account to pay for this shit. Our money. Money I earned crawling through attics and pulling wire in 100-degree heat was funding her affair with some marketing pretty boy who probably doesn't know which end of a screwdriver to hold. I went through 3 months of statements and found at least $2,000 in hotel charges, restaurant bills, and random ATM withdrawals that lined up perfectly with her work obligations. This asshole Louie was getting the girlfriend experience on my dime. The more I dug, the angrier I got. Not just hurt, furious. This wasn't some moment of weakness or emotional affair that got out of hand. This was planned, methodical, calculated deception. She'd been living a double life for months, lying to my face every single day while plotting her exit. Found their vacation planning messages too. Apparently, after our marriage naturally ended, her words, they were going to take a romantic trip to Costa Rica. With money from our joint savings account, of course. Had the whole thing mapped out. She'd get half of everything in the divorce, plus alimony since I made more money. Then they'd ride off into the sunset together. Lewis was even helping her research divorce lawyers. Found messages where he's sending her links to articles about maximizing your settlement and protecting your interests during separation. Real romantic stuff, planning how to financially screw over her husband. But you know what? Instead of losing my shit like they probably expected, I got calm. Scary calm. Because now I had a choice to make. Be the devastated husband who begs her to come back and promises to change, or be the guy who plays chess while they're playing checkers. I chose chess. By Thursday morning, I had a plan. Not an emotional, revenge-driven plan, but a strategic, legal, bulletproof plan to protect myself from someone who'd already decided to destroy our marriage while maximizing her personal benefit. Sarah wanted to play games? Fine. But she was about to find out that electricians are pretty good at planning complex projects too. And unlike her little scheme, mine was going to be completely legal and totally devastating. First order of business was finding a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. I needed someone who specialized in divorce cases involving adultery and knew how to protect assets. Did some research online and kept seeing the same name pop up. Jennifer Walsh. Reviews said she was ruthless but fair, had a reputation for going after cheating spouses and making them pay for their bullshit. Her office was downtown in one of those fancy glass buildings where parking costs more per hour than some people make. Felt a little out of place walking in there in my work boots and jeans, but her receptionist was cool about it. Got me in for a consultation that same afternoon. Jennifer turned out to be exactly what I needed. Mid-40s, sharp as hell, with this no-nonsense attitude that told me she'd seen every trick in the book. Her office walls were covered with certificates and awards, including one for Family Law Attorney of the Year. This woman knew her shit. "So what's your situation?" she asked, getting straight to the point. 5-year marriage, no kids, wife's cheating with a coworker? I laid it out clean. She asked for a break to figure herself out, but really she's planning her exit strategy. I want to protect everything I brought into this marriage and everything we've built together. Do you have proof of the affair? I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshots I'd taken. She scrolled through them with this poker face, nodding occasionally. When she got to the part about them planning to use our money for their Costa Rica trip, she actually smiled. "This is excellent documentation," she said. "Your state allows fault-based divorce for adultery, which means she forfeits any claim to alimony. With this evidence, we can also argue she used marital funds to facilitate the affair, which is dissipation of assets. What's that mean in regular English? It means she owes you money for every hotel room and dinner she paid for with your joint account while screwing around." I liked Jennifer immediately. She explained my options. Since we had solid proof of adultery, I could file for fault-based divorce. This would not only kill any alimony claims, but also give me leverage in asset division. The house was tricky. I owned it before marriage, but 5 years of improvements and mortgage payments made it partially marital property. However, Jennifer continued, if we can show she was planning to defraud you during the marriage, we might be able to protect more of your separate property. These messages about researching divorce strategies while still married could be considered evidence of fraud. Even better, Sarah's use of joint funds for the affair constituted economic adultery, basically stealing marital money to fund her cheating. Every hotel bill, every dinner with Louis, every ATM withdrawal near his place was money she owed back to the marriage. We filed the paperwork that afternoon, emergency motion to freeze joint accounts pending divorce proceedings. Since I could prove Sarah was using marital funds for extramarital activities, the court would likely grant it same day. Her debit card will be declined by tomorrow morning, Jennifer explained. She'll have access to whatever cash she has on hand, but no more joint account access until this gets sorted out. Next was asset protection. Jennifer had me make a list of everything: the house, cars, my work truck and tools, retirement accounts, savings, even my collection of vintage guitars I'd been building since high school. We'd need to determine what was separate property, mine before marriage, versus marital property, acquired during marriage. The house was the big one. I'd put down $40,000 from inheritance money when I bought it at 28, then paid about $60,000 in mortgage payments during our marriage. Sarah had contributed maybe $15,000 total to household expenses over 5 years, mostly utilities and groceries, while I handled the big stuff. "We'll argue the house appreciation was due to your labor and investment," Jennifer said. "You did the renovations yourself, correct? That sweat equity belongs to you, not the marriage." Smart woman. "Yeah, I'd personally rewired the whole place, updated the plumbing, refinished the floors, built a deck, landscaped the yard. Probably added $80,000 in value through my own work. Sarah helped pick out paint colors. Then we talked strategy. Filing immediately would catch Sarah off guard. She thought she had 2 weeks to plan her moves, but there was more we could do. "The car she's driving," Jennifer asked. "Whose name is on the title?" "Mine only. Bought it before we got married. Never added her to the registration." "Then it's your property. You can legally put a GPS tracker on it if you want to document where she's actually staying. Just make sure you keep records of everything you find." Bingo. I stopped by Best Buy on the way home and bought a magnetic GPS tracker. One of those little devices hunters use to track their gear. Cost me $80 but seemed like a solid investment. That night I waited until around 11 p.m., then drove over to Lewis's apartment complex. Took me 20 minutes to find our car parked in visitor parking. The GPS tracker was about the size of a matchbook, magnetic, totally invisible once you stuck it up under the bumper. 2 minutes and I was back in my truck, heading home. Now I'd know exactly where Sarah was going and how long she stayed there. Friday morning, I checked the tracker app. She'd spent the night at 1247 Oak Street, apartment 3B. Quick Google search confirmed that address belonged to one Louis Rivera, age 28, marketing specialist at the same company where Sarah worked. So much for staying at Anna's place to figure herself out. She was shacked up with her affair partner on night one of our break. But here's the best part. I had GPS evidence now. Timestamps showing exactly when she arrived at his place, how long she stayed, when she left. All automatically recorded and saved to my phone. Jennifer called around noon with an update. The court had granted our emergency motion. Sarah's access to joint accounts was officially frozen as of 2 p.m. Friday. Her debit card would start declining within hours. She'll probably call you panicked about the accounts, Jennifer warned. Don't admit to anything. Just tell her you're protecting marital assets during the separation period, which is completely legal. I was ready for that conversation. In fact, I was looking forward to it. The GPS tracker showed Sarah leaving Lewis's place around 3 p.m. Friday, probably heading back to work. I wondered how long it would take her to figure out her financial situation had changed. Turned out, not long at all. My phone rang at 4:47 p.m. Sarah's ringtone. "Mike, what the hell did you do?" she said, skipping right past hello. "My card just got declined at the grocery store." "Oh, that," I said, calm as anything. "Yeah, I froze our joint accounts. Just protecting marital assets during our separation period. Standard procedure." "You can't do that. That's my money too." "Actually, I can." And I did. "You wanted space, remember? This is what space looks like when you're married. Separate finances until we figure out what we're doing." She was quiet for a long moment, probably realizing her little plan to fund her affair with our joint money had just hit a major roadblock. "This is ridiculous, Mike. I need access to our account." "For what?" "I thought you were staying at Anna's place, just doing some soul searching." "How much money do you need for soul searching?" Another long pause. She was trying to figure out how to explain needing money without admitting where she really was or what she was really doing. I need gas money and food. Basic stuff. You've got your own checking account with your paycheck money. Use that." That only has like $200 in it, which meant she'd been using our joint account for everything while keeping her own money separate. Real nice. Building her own nest egg while spending mine. "Sounds like a budgeting problem," I said. "Maybe this break will help you figure out how to manage money better too." She hung up on me. The next morning, the GPS tracker showed she was still at Lewis's place. Apparently, her soul searching required a lot of overnight stays at her coworker's apartment. What a coincidence. Sunday afternoon, Jennifer called with more good news. Sarah's lawyer. Yeah, she'd already hired one, which told me everything about how spontaneous this break really was. Had reached out wanting to discuss temporary support during separation. "What did you tell them?" I asked. "That we'd be happy to discuss temporary support once their client stops committing adultery and using marital funds to do it." Funny how that shut down the conversation real quick. So after that, the tracker showed some interesting movement patterns. She bounced between Lewis's apartment, a few different ATMs, probably maxing out daily withdrawal limits, and what looked like a Target and grocery store. Girl was clearly scrambling to figure out her money situation. Around 3 p.m. Sunday, she pulled into our driveway. I watched from the living room window as she sat in the car for like 5 minutes, probably rehearsing whatever story she was going to try to sell me. When she finally got out, I could tell she'd been crying. Hair was a mess, wearing the same clothes from 2 days ago, looking generally like someone whose master plan was falling apart. The doorbell rang even though she still had her keys. Guess she was trying to be respectful or whatever. Too little, too late, but points for effort, I suppose. "Hey, Mike," she said when I opened the door. Trying to sound casual, but her voice was shaky. "Can we talk?" "Sure, come on in," I said, stepping aside. I'd been waiting for this conversation all weekend. She walked into our living room looking around like she was seeing it for the first time, probably noticing how normal everything looked, how I wasn't sitting in the dark drinking or surrounded by empty pizza boxes like some heartbroken movie character. "So," she said, settling onto the couch where we used to watch Netflix together. "This thing with the bank accounts is pretty extreme, don't you think?" "Is it?" I asked, sitting in my recliner across from her. "You wanted space. I gave you space. You wanted time to figure things out. I'm giving you time. What's the problem?" "The problem is I can't access our money. That's not fair." "Our money," I repeated. Interesting choice of words. "Tell me, what have you been spending our money on during your break?" She got that deer in headlights look. "What do you mean?" "I mean you asked for a break Tuesday night. And by Wednesday, you'd already racked up hotel charges and restaurant bills. That's pretty fast work for someone who's supposedly just staying at Anna's place doing some soul searching. Her face went white. I don't know what you're talking about. Really? Because I talked to Anna Thursday night. Funny thing, she hasn't seen you in over a week. So either Anna's lying or you are. Which one do you think it is? Sarah just stared at me, mouth opening and closing like a fish. She was trying to come up with some explanation that didn't involve admitting she'd been caught in a lie from day one. Mike, I can explain. I'm sure you can. I cut her off. You've always been creative. But before you start explaining, there's something you should see. I reached behind my chair and pulled out a manila folder. Been sitting there since Friday, waiting for this moment. Inside were printed copies of every Slack message between her and Lewis, every incriminating photo, every timeline of lies I'd documented. Her eyes went wide when she saw the folder. What is that? This is what I've been doing with my time while you've been finding yourself, I said, sliding the folder across the coffee table. Go ahead, take a look. It's all yours. She opened it with trembling hands, started reading the first page, screenshots of their earliest messages from January, watched her face go from confusion to horror to pure panic as she realized how much I knew. Mike, these are taken out of context. Really? What's the context for can't wait to taste you again or your husband working late again? Perfect timing? I'm genuinely curious how those could be misunderstood. She kept flipping through pages, seeing months of evidence laid out in chronological order. The hotel receipts lined up with their message timestamps, the photos they'd sent each other, the conversations about planning their Costa Rica trip with money from our divorce settlement. You went through my private messages, she said, grasping for some kind of moral high ground. Your messages on our shared laptop that you left logged in? Nothing private about using household equipment for your affair planning. That's when she started crying. Real tears this time, not the manipulative kind. She was realizing her perfect little scheme had been completely exposed, and there was no way to spin this. I never meant for it to happen this way. Sure you did. You planned this for months. The only thing you didn't plan on was getting caught. I reached behind the chair again and pulled out another envelope. This one was thick, official looking, with a law firm's return address. What's that? She whispered. Divorce papers, citing adultery, dissipation of marital assets, and fraud. Your boyfriend Louis says hi, by the way. Her hands were shaking as she took the envelope. That's when my doorbell rang. Oh, that'll be for you, I said, getting up to answer it. The process server was right on time. Professional-looking guy in a suit, carrying a clipboard and looking like he did this every day. Sarah Walsh? He asked, looking past me to where she was sitting on the couch, still holding the divorce papers. That's her, I said. You've been served, he told her, handing over another set of official documents. Have a good day. And just like that, he was gone. Sarah sat there holding two sets of legal papers, looking like her world had just collapsed, which, to be fair, it had. The joint accounts will stay frozen until this gets resolved, I told her, sitting back down. You'll have access to whatever's in your personal checking account. Your lawyer can explain the rest. My lawyer? She asked, confused. Yeah, my lawyer talked to yours Friday afternoon. Apparently you hired them Wednesday. Same day you started your break. Amazing coincidence, right? She wasn't even trying to deny anything anymore. The evidence was overwhelming, and we both knew it. Where am I supposed to go? She asked, voice barely above a whisper. I can't afford a hotel every night. That's not really my problem anymore, I said. But I hear Louis has a nice place. You've certainly spent enough time there this weekend. Her head snapped up. How do you... Your stuff is packed and in the garage. Everything except furniture and household items. There's also a check for your personal contributions to joint expenses. I calculated it out to be fair. She stared at me like I was a stranger. You really planned all this out. Someone had to. You were too busy planning your escape to think about the details. It took her 4 trips to load everything into the car. We worked in silence, her crying quietly, me just wanting it over with. When she was done, she stood in the driveway looking at our house like she was seeing it for the last time, which she was. She got in the car and drove away. I watched until the taillights disappeared around the corner, then went back inside to my quiet house. For the first time in months, everything felt peaceful. That didn't last long. The next morning, my phone starts blowing up. First, it's Sarah's sister Lisa, then her mom, then a couple of our mutual friends, all with variations of the same message. What the hell is wrong with you? Sarah's devastated. How could you be so cruel? Turns out, Sarah had spent last night making calls, spinning her own version of events. According to her story, I was a controlling husband who couldn't handle her needing some independence. She'd asked for a completely innocent break to work on herself, and I'd responded by freezing bank accounts and filing for divorce, like some kind of psychopath. No mention of Louis, obviously. No mention of the months of planning and lying. No mention of using our money to fund hotel visits with her affair partner. Just poor Sarah, victim of her unreasonable husband, who couldn't support her personal growth journey. Her mom actually had the balls to call me directly around 10 a.m. Monday. "Mike," she says in that disappointed tone, mothers-in-law perfect over the years. "I just got off the phone with Sarah. She's absolutely heartbroken. Don't you think you're being a little extreme? Marriage is about working through problems, not running to lawyers at the first sign of trouble." "First sign of trouble?" I asked. "Helen, how much did Sarah tell you about this break she wanted?" "She said she needed some time to figure herself out. That's perfectly normal for people your age. But instead of being supportive, you immediately jump to divorce. That's not how marriage works." I could tell Helen genuinely believed what she was saying. Sarah had sold her the sanitized version where she was just a confused young woman trying to find herself. I spent the next 20 minutes walking Helen through the evidence. Not the graphic stuff, but enough to paint the picture. The fake Anna story, the hotel receipts, the messages with Louis, the timeline showing this was all planned in advance. Helen went quiet for a long time after I finished. Finally, she said, "Do you have proof of all this?" "I've got screenshots, bank statements, GPS tracking data, and about 3 months of documentation. Sarah's lawyer has copies of everything." Another long pause. I need to call you back." She hung up, and I knew Sarah's damage control campaign was about to hit a major snag. Tuesday morning, I got a call from Sarah's dad, Richard. Now, Richard and I had always gotten along great. He's old school, worked construction his whole life, believes in honesty and hard work. Reminded me a lot of my own father. "Mike," he said, and his voice was different, colder. "Helen showed me the evidence you gave her. Is all that true?" "Every word. I can send you copies if you want to verify it yourself," he muttered. "I gave that girl everything. Paid for her college, helped you guys with the wedding, always tried to support her dreams. And this is what she does?" "Richard, I'm sorry you had to find out this way. I know this is hard." "Hard?" He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You know what's hard? Finding out your daughter is just like her mother. Sarah's parents had divorced 3 years earlier when her mom had an affair with her yoga instructor. Real original. Apparently the apple didn't fall far from the tree, and Richard was seeing the pattern too. Within hours, Richard had called the rest of Sarah's family with the real story. Suddenly, the narrative shifted from "poor Sarah" to "what the hell is wrong with that girl?" Her support network collapsed faster than a house of cards. But that was just the beginning. Wednesday afternoon, I got a call from Jennifer with an update. Sarah's lawyer wants to discuss settlement terms. Apparently, they're no longer interested in fighting the adultery claims. What kind of settlement are they talking about? Basically, they want to minimize her financial exposure. She's offering to waive any claim to the house, retirement accounts, or alimony in exchange for a quick, quiet divorce. What's the catch? No catch from a legal standpoint. She's basically admitting fault and giving up everything to avoid a public trial. But I suspect there's more to this than just wanting privacy. Jennifer was right. There was definitely more to it. Thursday morning, I decided to do some research into Sarah and Lewis's workplace situation. Their company was one of those tech startups that prides itself on corporate culture and ethical business practices, the kind of place that has value statements plastered all over their website. I pulled up their employee handbook online. Most of it was public since they were always recruiting. Buried in Section 12.3 was their professional conduct policy, specifically prohibited using company resources for personal relationships, fraudulent expense reporting, and conduct that reflects poorly on company values. Interesting. Very interesting. See, all those Slack messages between Sarah and Lewis, that was company property, company time, company equipment, company servers, and those client dinners and late meetings that were really hotel visits. If they were claiming those as business expenses, that was fraud. I started cross-referencing Sarah's calendar with her expense reports. She'd been sloppy about it, probably figuring no one would ever check. But there it was, dozens of meals and travel expenses that didn't match up with actual business activities. I compiled everything into a neat package. Jennifer helped me send it through proper legal channels to their company's HR department and corporate ethics hotline. Anonymous tip, but backed up with documentation that would be impossible to deny. The response was swift and brutal. Friday afternoon, Louis got called into HR. By Monday morning, he was cleaning out his desk, apparently claiming overtime for hours he was actually at hotels with a married coworker violated about 6 different company policies, plus the fraudulent expense reports and using company Slack for explicit communications. Sarah lasted exactly 1 week longer. They gave her a chance to explain the expense discrepancies, but she couldn't without admitting to the affair. When they showed her the Slack messages, she broke down and confessed everything. Both of them fired within 2 weeks. Not just fired, terminated for cause, which meant no severance pay, no unemployment benefits, and not eligible for rehire flags in their employment records. But wait, there's more. See, their company takes ethics violations seriously. So seriously that they reported the fraudulent expense claims to their business insurance carrier. Turns out when employees commit fraud using company resources, that can void certain coverage protections. Long story short, both Sarah and Lewis were now facing potential civil liability for the money they'd cost the company through fraudulent reporting. We're talking about repaying thousands in fake expense claims plus legal fees. Sarah's lawyer called Jennifer Friday afternoon, practically begging for a settlement conference. They want this to go away quickly, Jennifer told me. Your wife is facing unemployment, potential civil lawsuits from her former employer, and now her family knows the truth. She's got no leverage left. What's she offering? Everything. House, retirement accounts, cars, savings. She wants nothing except her personal belongings and whatever's left in her checking account. In exchange, she wants the divorce finalized ASAP with no public proceedings. I thought about it for exactly 10 seconds. Deal. But I want it in writing that she can never contact me again, except through lawyers, and she has to sign a non-disclosure agreement about our marriage. Done. By the following Friday, Sarah had signed papers, giving up any claim to anything we'd built together. No alimony, no asset split, no nothing. She got to walk away with her clothes and about $800 in her personal checking account. The divorce was finalized 6 weeks later. Fastest uncontested divorce in county history, according to Jennifer. Haven't heard from Sarah since. Looking back on everything, I'm actually grateful it happened the way it did. Not grateful for the betrayal. That sucked, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but grateful that I found out when I did, before we had kids or bought a bigger house or got more financially tangled up.